Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to read the first chapter of my translation of a novelette, about 16,000 words, in a language called Ladino, that is the Spanish spoken all over the Eastern Mediterranean, in the Balkans and in the Ottoman Empire, by the descendants of Jews expelled from Spain in 1492. The novelette is called La mujer honesta probada por su marido, or The Chaste Wife tested by her husband. It was published in Constantinople or Istanbul in the mid-1920s. Its author was Elia Karmona, who was a prolific journalist, editor, novel writer and translator. The Chaste Wife belongs to a genre written by progressive and westernised intellectuals and dealing with topics of female interest, very often the invidious position of women in the Eastern or Oriental society of the time. In this case, the chaste wife is Giulietta, and she is subjected to the unreasoning jealousy of her husband, whose name, by the way, Armand, was typical of the Frenchified culture of Jewish society in cities such as Constantinople and Salonika. But Juliet is nevertheless a sophisticated and westernized woman who manages to prove to her husband that his behaviour is unreasonable and wrong, and in doing so she provides the plot and the humour of the story by making the other men, the men who the husband uses to test her virtue, look ridiculous. So I'm going to read the first chapter of the book. Armand and Giulietta had been married for only 2 weeks. They were sitting facing each other, exchanging the sweet nothings of their honeymoon. Juliet was happy and laughed with her husband as she said, "After 3 years of sincere love, God was so good as to unite our hearts." Armand smiled at these words as he looked at her with one of those glances which makes the heart beat faster, and he listened to his new wife continue in the same vein. "Please tell me, Armand, was it my beauty that you fell in love with?" "Of course. If you weren't beautiful, I would never have married you." "But what about my personality? Don't I have an attractive personality?" "Yes, darling, very much so. I must congratulate myself on choosing a wife with such a delightful personality." "And my education?" "That leaves nothing to be desired. Only—" "Don't be annoyed, Giulietta. I'm going to tell you something." "Go on, darling. Is there something wrong with me? I'll do something about it at once." "No, darling, there's nothing wrong, but there's something that makes me feel uncomfortable whenever I see it in you." "Armand, please explain what you mean. I want to know what I'm doing wrong and correct it. What is it that you don't like about me?" "There's nothing I don't like, darling. But I often notice that when some guest comes, you're very friendly with him, and I don't like it. That's the truth." "But that's just good manners." "Yes, if you didn't clasp his hand and smile at him, wouldn't you say?" "Simple courtesy means we have to welcome all our visitors, whether it's a man or a woman. I don't think you can attach any special meaning to my shaking his hand." "But, darling, it upsets me. I'm jealous. I feel embarrassed." "You're jealous?" "If you're jealous, it shows you don't really love me." "Just the opposite, darling Giulietta. When a husband loves his wife, he must be jealous." "Oh, nonsense." "A man should not be jealous of his wife, nor she of him. If both are sincerely in love, then neither could possibly betray the other." Yes, of course you're right, darling, but there's one important point here that not many people understand. Dear, married only a fortnight and getting jealous already. You ought to be ashamed. Oh, don't be cross, darling. Women aren't bad, but they are tender-hearted. And when a man who comes visiting sees that you're being nice to him, he takes advantage of your kindness to tell you that he loves you. He says that he is dying for love of you. He weeps for hours at your feet, and you women, with your tender hearts, you feel sorry for him, and you give him what he wants. I think you are forgetting that we women are born clever. A wife never betrays her husband if she is happy with him. If you see women who deceive their husbands, there's a reason for it. Either she doesn't love him, or he's been unfaithful to her, or the life that a husband gives his wife doesn't fit her idea of how to live. But I'm sure that you and I love each other sincerely, and that you are a model husband, in fact I know you are. And if as a husband you leave nothing to be desired, why should your wife deceive you? No, Armand, don't be jealous, because jealousy will make you suffer. No man should be jealous of his wife, nor any wife of her husband. There's no reason, no cause for it, and you get no benefit, and all you will do is worry all the time. Maybe so. But what can I do? I am jealous. And I'm jealous just because I love you so very much. Giulietta smiled at the reply. She took her husband's hand, put it over her eyes, and said to him, "Don't be jealous, Armand, don't be jealous. You've had the good fortune to find a virtuous woman." "I know. I don't suspect you. That's just my nature. I can't help it. So, there's no need to bring any visitors to the house, is that so? We don't have to go anywhere, do we? We have to live a solitary life?" Replied Giulietta with some anger in her voice. Armand realized that his wife was cross, so he changed his tone, hugged and kissed her gently, and said, "Don't be cross, darling. I shan't be jealous. Happy now?" "Of course. What is jealousy? It's shameful. And a husband should never distrust his wife if he doesn't test her. And have you tested me and found me unfaithful?" This answer made young Armand shiver with pleasure. His wife had told him to test her. This was a good way of checking if she was deceiving him. They talked about other things for half an hour. Armand got ready, said goodbye to Giulietta, and went off to business.